है गुरु रामदास है धरती है आकाश है गुरु रामदास है धरती है
Konnichiwa. Hola. Ni hao. Bonjour. Buongiorno. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Aloha. Jambo. Welcome to The Journey. Greetings to all of you out there in the listening audience. My name is Carolyn Jones and I'm your host. The word of the day is reflect. It's time to reflect on what we say and do. Are you hurting anyone? If you are, you've just hurt yourself. It's time to manifest the good and forsake the bad. It's time to banish your frown by turning it upside down. A smile relieves stress, lowers blood pressure, boosts your immune system, releases endorphins and natural painkillers, makes you look younger, and projects a successful and positive energy. We have so much to be grateful for, even in times of despair. Take some time to reflect. Today, I have an especially full heart for my guest, the Reverend Bovian, Executive Director of Women's Advocate Ministry, Inc., also known as WHAM. WHAM has been serving incarcerated women and their children since the early 1980s. Most of these women are young, unskilled single parents from minority groups whose crimes were based on survival. When you visit the WHAM website, www.womensadvocateministry.org, you will find that this organization is unique in its approach of support for the women because the organization services each woman from the time of her arrest through the entire legal process until her case is decided. Please consider this. Often there are underage children and dependent family members unable to assist the arrested woman in any way. WHAM is the bridge, able to intercede on the arrested woman's behalf. The goal of the organization is not to leave any woman behind who has called upon WHAM to help her during her crisis. WHAM's objective is to remain client-centered in its programs as the organization serves over 600 incarcerated women and their children, a rapidly growing yet often forgotten population, by providing a variety of services, including education about parental rights and responsibilities, acting as liaison with lawyers and families, and referrals to a wide variety of services, including housing and substance abuse treatment. I wish to welcome my dear friend and respected colleague to the radio studio today. It's so nice to see you, Reverend Bovian. I'm so happy you could make it.
Oh, Carol, thank you so much. It is an honor and privilege to be with you today, and thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Bovian, I've invited you here to help us reflect on who you often refer to as the least of these. What do you mean by the least of these?
Well, since I am an ordained UCC minister, the program, however, is housed in Harlem at Salem United Methodist Church on 129th and 7th Avenue. Matthew 25 is one of my favorite passages because to me it is a mandate as to who I am, referring to myself as one who has been called to a service. And Matthew 25 tells us that we as Christians are supposed to serve the least of these, that is, those who are hungry, those who are naked, those who do not have housing, and also those who are in prison. It is our responsibility as the community of Christians, or community even as human beings, to help those who are unable to help themselves and to be a voice for those who are voiceless. So that's my call, and that's what that means to me, to help the least of these.
It's beautiful. Feel free to make a rallying call to request that the community step forward and share your vision for change on behalf of families who are burdened by the backlash of their involvement with the prison system. How can we help?
First, I think it is very, very important that the community is educated about the prison system and who is in the system, because all who enter the system will come back to the community one day. There was a recent editorial in the New York Times, and it referred to this nation as the prison nation because of its high level of imprisonment. 1 in 100 Americans, or adults rather, are behind bars. 1 in 9 black men, ages 20 to 34, are serving time, as are 1 in 36 adult Hispanic men. So this is, and we're talking about, understand the wording here. We are talking about those who are either in prison or jail. We are not talking about those who are on parole or probation, because if that's the case, that's almost 1 in every 50. The numbers would definitely double.
Wow.
So we have to be very cognizant as a community as to why is it that our people are going down this slippery slope. What is it? If it's the educational system, then we need to do something in order to make sure that it's teaching our children so that they can find, self-esteem, so they don't go into prison. We don't do this. We are a very reactionary society. We're not preventive. If you go into Albany, they will tell you that they can tell what's going to happen to a kid by the time it's in the 5th grade. Well, if you know that, you can prevent it.
That's right.
You can prevent, and it's up to us as a community to take the responsibility for our youth, because this is where it starts, and we must do something about it. And we must see that people are properly represented and not have our justice system as a plea bargaining entity. There's something wrong with that. If a person is innocent, they should be declared as innocent. Not wait until they're in prison 5 or 6 years or 10 years or 15 years and all of a sudden someone comes up and finds some new evidence. That doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense at all.
No, and I think we have to take responsibility for what we're allowing to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I recently heard that the new statistics for the highest ranking killer of black women is AIDS. Would you address that issue as it relates to the prison population?
Well, first I'd like to dispel the myth that many people have, that women are contacting AIDS while in prison. No. Women are coming into prison with HIV. When they stay in prison for a long period of time and they're not being properly medicated, then it escalates to AIDS. Then they're released and they come back into the community. What we have to do as a community is see to it that women are educated about protective sex so that they don't get AIDS or HIV prior to anything happening. We are becoming very free in terms of not helping our young people to understand the ills of having unprotected sex. And when they get into prison and not getting the proper medication, and some of them are being told while they're in there that they have the virus, and then not getting the proper medication after getting it, naturally it's going to escalate. So it's not that they're getting it in prison, they're getting it on the outside and bringing it into prison. This is also true for men.
Thank you. It's my understanding that you, at the beginning of your career in this process with WHAM, were instrumental in helping women who were giving birth. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yes. In 1999, I was speaking to some of the women out at Rikers Island Nursery. And one of the women said to me that while she was giving birth, she was shackled. And I said, my goodness, I just couldn't believe it. In fact, I did not
Whoa.
believe her when she said it. But it resonated
It's horrendous.
it resonated in my mind. And when I spoke to another woman, she said the same thing. And these two women didn't know each other, so it couldn't be any sort of collaboration. And then I asked someone else. So I happened to do research and come to find out that women that were in the system that was pregnant and giving birth, these women were being shackled while they were in labor. And as a result of that, to cut to the chase, I started working with Amnesty International. And Amnesty International printed my data. And then later on, the New York Times did an interview. All this is in 1999.
Yes.
And the New York Times printed their interview with me at that time, and come to find out that what I had declared was actually the truth. And so they changed the policy. It is no longer policy to shackle a woman while she's in labor. However, it's not, that is good enough, that at least we made that progress in it. But it is not as good as it could be, because it should be law that you cannot shackle a woman while she is in labor.
Yes.
That is barbaric.
Yes, it is.
You
Very
know,
primitive.
and that is something that should not be allowed to happen.
So, is this practice still going on?
No, the practice is not going on now. Women are not being shackled while they are in labor. But as I said, it's policy.
Okay.
Change your legislators, and someone feels that, well, it can go on and happen again, then it can happen again.
I
If you
understand.
make it a law, you know, there can be exceptions. For instance, if the woman who is in labor happens to be of a mental state that's
Yes.
critical to herself as well as to her fetus, then there could be some sort of restraints on her.
Yes.
But I think that it has to be strictly stipulated as to what are the circumstances that you can shackle a woman while she's in labor, not making it broad base.
Yes. Well, we still have a long way to go regarding women's rights, don't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Reverend Bovian, I look forward to making my annual clothing donation to those innocently sweet babies
Me
and
too.
toddlers. Where can our generous listeners send or deliver their clothing and toy donations?
Well, as I said, we're located in Salem United Methodist Church at 129th and 7th Avenue. In fact, the exact address is Women's Advocate Ministry, 211 West 129th Street on the 3rd floor, New York, New York 10027. And this is where it's from newborn to toddler 2, because the babies are allowed to stay with their mothers until they are a year old. So, and some of them get very, all babies, at a year old, some of them are big enough to look as if they're almost
Yes.
2 years old.
Yeah.
So we have to get clothing for them as well. It's summer as well as winter. Like winter is coming now, some of the mothers that are in Bedford, as well as in Taconic and Rikers, they take their babies outside. So they need snowsuits, and they
Yes.
need winter clothes. And I think that it would be so great if your listeners were able to do a baby shower for the babies in prison.
Yes, that would be
And your
beautiful.
generous contribution over the years it's been truly a godsend.
It's always a pleasure for me. There is one thing that I wanted to ask you. Would you give our listeners your phone number?
Yes. The phone number for WHAM is 212-280-7320. And as I said, the email, if you want to email me a response or anything, the email is WHAM, W-A-M, Inc., I-N-C, the numeric 1, at AOL.com. I'll repeat that. That's WAMINC, the numeric 1, at AOL.com. WHAM Inc. 1 at AOL.com.
Well, you heard it here on The Journey. We must take care of our own. Too many of our children and our elderly are falling by the wayside, feeling unwanted, unneeded, and unloved. And I'd just like to bring out a point. Some people may say, well, doesn't the government provide for the babies?
No, the government provides food, and that's it, and Pampers. The clothing must come from the outside. We also have another program, and we just started that this past year. We have a Mentoring Children of Prisoners program. And school is coming up, and we need supplies. We need backpacks, we need pencils, we need anything that anyone can think of that children would need for school. We need it for these kids. They deserve it. And they don't deserve anything that's used or worn.
That's
They
right.
deserve brand new, the same as any other child would have, so they can have some pride in what they go to school with.
Yes, there are plenty of sales
Yes.
out there, so I know our listeners will keep that in mind.
And we also can have books, school books,
Oh,
that the kids can have in order to aid them in their reading, because we also have tutors and whatnot to help these young people.
fantastic.
And we take the children from age 6 to age 18. So if you can think of good educational, informative books that you could send to us, we would be more than glad to distribute that to our young people.
Yes. You know, our children and our elderly are the more vulnerable members of our society. And that's one thing I love about Hawaii. They take care of their elderly. Elderly women are addressed as auntie, and elderly men are addressed as uncle. Honor and respect are flowers in the Garden of Paradise. Thank you for visiting us, Reverend Bovian. Please come again.
Thank you so much.
I love you so much.
Thank you, and I would like to also thank your listeners for listening, because that too should be commended when people can listen. That's half the battle.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Our featured artist is Miss Meryl Jefferson. This young lady can make a violin sing. Without any further delay, Meryl Jefferson. Thank you so much, Meryl. That is a very touching and melancholy piece. What was the title of that?
The title is Stardust.
Stardust, yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a violinist. I've been playing for about 16 years. And I currently study with Michele Ramo, who is a multi-instrumentalist.
Oh, how wonderful. Are you going to play anything else for us today?
Yes, I'm going to play Sweet Lorraine.
Oh, can't wait.
Okay.
Bravo. Listeners, I
Thank you.
told you Meryl would pull at your
I promised
heartstrings
you
with her
that
violin.
this talented young lady would pull at your
Meryl was
heartstrings
born
with her
in
violin
Elmhurst,
strings.
Queens, New York on November 12, 1984.
Let's see.
She began playing the
Okay, we
violin
got
at
time
5
for
years
some
old when her
more
elementary school,
delicious
PS 123, created a music and dance project entitled I Am Somebody. Inspired and encouraged by her parents, she went on to learn vocal techniques and how to play the flute and piano. She also writes poetry. Miss Jefferson has performed at Carnegie Hall, Alice Tully Hall at Lincoln Center, the Potter's House in Dallas, Texas, founded by T.D. Jakes, the Soul Cafe, and the Helen Mills Theater. She currently performs with Leon Lacy's Christian Ministry, Leon's Inner Voice, fusion group Mother Wit Orchestra, founded by Boston Fielder, and R&B soul band Remedy, founded by vocalist Diane Centeno. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, are you available for events?
Yes, I am, actually.
Okay. Would you be so kind as to tell our listeners how to contact you?
Sure, you can contact me by email, which is Jefferson, Jefferson, period, Meryl, Meryl, @gmail.com.
Okay. That sounds wonderful. You know I know how to get a hold
Yes,
of you.
I know.
Well, we are once again at the crossroads. Please do not hesitate to submit your comments to me at cmjonesmedia@yahoo.com. I want to hear from you. Take a moment to affirm yourself for opportunity. Say it. Say it with us, Meryl. Yes,
Yes.
I will.
Yes, I will.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Guru Ram Das hai, dharti hai, akash hai. Guru Ram Das hai, dharti hai, akash hai. Guru Ram Das hai, dharti hai, akash hai. Guru Ram Das hai.